quero mostrar para você um documentário curto, de 20 minutos, que eu já apresentei aqui num dia à tarde, num Papo de Graça, há uns 4 anos atrás. Continua vigente. É sobre a conversão de um dos principais líderes do Hamas, que foi criado como um garoto palestino, treinado para crescer em ódio, amargura, ira e espírito de vingança. Esse foi todo o treinamento que ele recebeu. Até que um dia, começando a apreciar a vida, uma luz estranha, um divisar novo, uma percepção, algo completamente sutil começou a crescer dentro dele, a alterar seu coração, as suas percepções. Você vai ficar impressionado como é que o Espírito Santo vai trabalhando num coraçãozinho de um menino desde a infância, que foi treinado para ser uma coisa e acaba se transformando numa testemunha da Boa Nova. Absolutamente imprevisível era tal desfecho, considerando o condicionamento dentro do qual o menino estava. São só 20 minutos. Preste toda atenção, você não vai se arrepender. Olha lá.
Muito antes de controlar a faixa de Gaza, onde está em guerra com Israel, o Hamas, movimento islâmico de resistência, ficou conhecido pelos atentados suicidas. Jovens palestinos que se infiltravam entre a população de Israel e explodiam bombas, matando centenas de civis israelenses. Agora surge o primeiro relato dos bastidores dessa história trágica. O livro Filho do Hamas, que acaba de ser lançado no Brasil, é a história do jovem palestino Mossab Hassan Youssef, filho de um dos fundadores do Hamas, que se desiludiu com a violência da organização e se tornou espião, ajudando Israel a prender um grande número de terroristas. Mossab vive hoje nos Estados Unidos, para onde veio depois de 10 anos, ajudando Israel a combater a organização que o próprio pai, o Sheikh Hassan Youssef, ajudou a criar. Convertido ao cristianismo, ele acredita que sua mensagem, o amor ao inimigo, é a única forma de superar a violência no Oriente Médio. Ameaçado de morte pelo Hamas, deserdado pelo pai, Mossab anda sem seguranças, mas não dá endereço ao telefone. A equipe do Milênio gravou a entrevista com ele no estúdio da Globo em Nova York.
So let's start, Mossab, by talking about your youth, when you grew up in the Palestinian occupied territories. How was it to live under the Israeli occupation?
For a child, this is one of the worst environments to grow up. And I was witnessing lots of killing, lots of death. I was living next to a cemetery, and all the dead bodies would come there. People were killed and shot by the Israelis. It was very difficult for me as a child to be witnessing all this violence. Today also the children of Gaza, the children of the West Bank, having grown up under the same circumstances. Also Jewish children are witnessing lots of violence. Maybe not as much as Palestinians are witnessing, but it's a new generation that is fed on violence and blood, and I am afraid for the future of the next generations to come from the Middle East. And I hope that soon leaders start to recognize the psychological impact on those children, so we don't produce more hateful generations for the future.
Your father is one of the founders of Hamas, but if I understood well reading your book, he didn't want you to be part of Hamas. You were not recruited, you were not really one of the Hamas men. Why?
First of all, did I want to be one of Hamas men? I was asked to be close to Hamas, not to be involved with Hamas.
By your father?
In fact, that was by the Shin Bet later on, but by my father. It's the heart of the father. And he didn't prevent me of participating in Hamas, but I could see in his eyes that he didn't want me to get killed or get hurt or even being imprisoned for that reason. He thought that it was enough for him to be facing all this type of problems, and while he's gone, he was relying on me to take care of my mother and my brothers. So in his opinion, if both of us were gone, nobody was there to take care of the family.
But when you were 18, you wanted to kill Israelis when you saw the violence around you. And you bought weapons and you were arrested for that. And you were tortured in prison. How did you feel about the Israelis when that happened?
For any Palestinian, I say that I used to hate the Jews, and Muslim Palestinians hate the Jews for two reasons. The first reason is ideological reason, that the God of Islam doesn't like Jews. The second reason, that they view Israel as an occupation force, and Israel is occupying the Palestinian territories. And it used aggression, assassinations, killing many times. And I don't justify the Israeli aggression no matter what, while I understand the right of Israel to live. But for this aggression and for this ideological problem, Palestinians in general want to fight Israel. So some of them think this is how we defend ourselves. Some of them want to take revenge from Israel for the hate that was produced because of this environment. I was one of those victims, and I thought the way to gain our freedom would be by killing Jews. So I wanted to kill Jews. Later on, as you said, I was tortured. I never killed a Jew. I never used the weapons. They didn't work, and I was arrested before they were used, and I was tortured in prison under the Israeli authority.
And then the Shin Bet, the security organization in Israel, invited you, asked you what happened. They wanted you to be an informer, and you wanted to use that to infiltrate them so you could kill them. Is that what you were thinking at the time?
Yes. At that time, after I was tortured, in fact, while I was under the torture, the Israeli Shin Bet, Israeli intelligence, asked me to work for them. I was asking, are those guys idiots, or what's their problem? They're torturing me, they're arresting my father, they're killing my people, and they're asking me now to work for them. I thought that would be a great opportunity at that time to infiltrate the Shin Bet and fool them and kill them from inside. So I was 18 years old, I was full of hate. I had enough reasons to hate them. In fact, they gave me all the reasons to hate them and want to take revenge from them. I decided to work for them and for them, and this is how I started working for the Shin Bet.
But how did your mind change about that?
Later on, I was transferred to a prison where other Palestinians and Hamas leaders were torturing their own members. And I was shocked. I understood the Israeli torture against Palestinians and persecution. But what I couldn't understand, why Hamas and Palestinians are torturing and persecuting their own people. Fatah tortured its own people, and Hamas learned the lesson from Fatah to torture their people. Most Palestinian factions tortured their members and killed some of them for the accusation of collaborating with Israel. Now, I start to question, what's the difference between the Israeli torture and the Palestinian torture? Why do I hate Israel because it tortured me, and I don't hate Palestinians because they torture my friends? And they could even torture me. So I had to be somehow honest and think as a human being, not as a Palestinian and as Israelis. And I saw ugly side of Palestinians as I saw ugly side of the Israelis. And to me, torture was torture, and that opened the door for the journey of questioning that took several years after that.
But you were so close to your father. Did you talk to him about that?
Of course, I talked to him about this, and I knew that he disagreed. In fact, he was the one who stopped the torture in prison when he was transferred to that prison. My father is a very forgiving person, as many Palestinian people, that they are wonderful people. And they are victims of some of the bad ideologies and religion. Now, those people, like my father, they tried to help the situation. Even they never killed a Jew. Maybe they justified killing a Jew somehow because they understand this is how we resist ourselves. But they're not terrorists in the nature. They are not. If you put my father with other Jew in the same room, I'm sure that my father is not going to kill that person because he cannot kill a human being. But to him, this is justified when he sees angry young men going and killing Jews, because he would say, okay, this is because of the Israeli aggression. And I say, as a human being, as human beings, we need to get down of this horse of pride and ideologies and politics and think as pure human beings. Because in this case, humans are fuel for this endless cycle of violence.
The Shin Bet helped you to pay for your university studies, and they let you for 4 years to be like a side. You weren't working for them, really, until the second Intifada. The second Intifada is when you started to work as a spy for them. And you say that at the day of decision, there was a day when you decided to really start doing this. What was in your mind in that day?
After I was released from prison, the Shin Bet invited me for a meeting, and I went for the meeting. As I told you, the original plan was to fool them. Now I went to the meeting, and in the meeting they were very friendly, and we discussed what happened in prison, the torture that was going on there, to discover that most my people, Palestinians who were killed or tortured, my friends, they were victims. They didn't have a clue or anything of a relationship with the Shin Bet, the Israeli intelligence. They were innocent people.
They were not collaborators.
They weren't collaborators with Israel. And I started even to question more. I already had a problem with the torture in prison, and now I had a problem to know the truth. If what the Shin Bet was telling me in the first meeting, that all the torture that took place in prison was baseless, and those people were victims, this meant to me a big disaster. Those people I trusted, and those people that we are fighting together, and I'm committing my life to them, and to their organization, and I wanted to kill Jews for their glory, and so they take over the Palestinian territories. What if they will become a government one day? Will they also torture everybody the same way they tortured everybody in prison? Now, I'm not saying that this is enough not to trust any Palestinian leadership or Palestinians at all, but I had to judge everything regarding to a pure human morality at that time. And I became very curious. I wanted to learn more. And unfortunately, that I was learning this from my enemies, who I wanted to kill, not from my people. My people weren't honest. Even my father wasn't honest enough. Maybe he was blinded totally to see the truth. And I had to go through this risky journey of hanging out with my enemies that I wanted to kill and have them as friends. And later on, we really became friends because I saw a big amount of honesty and responsibility in their behaviors. And that, I was fascinated about that, and I respected that. So later on, we became friends. Of course, they took care of my study university, but that wasn't the main motive to me as a person.
What was the main motive? When the second Intifada began, you actually began to work as a spy.
It's a mixture. The first motive was taking revenge. That was the original motive. Later on, it was the motive of knowing the truth. What's the reality of this conflict? Why people are killing each other? Why was I tortured? Why I was witnessing for all this blood? Who's really responsible for that?
Mm-hmm.
It was the journey and the motivation of discovering the truth. And later on, while I was confused, because simply, as I told you, I started to want to take revenge, and later on we became friends. So when I start to look at myself in the mirror, I say, what in the world I am doing? I am hanging out with my enemies as my friends. Should I quit and just quit everything? Quit Hamas, quit the Shin Bet, quit everything and find a different country? Or what? During that time, I met Jesus Christ. I met an evangelist who invited me to a Bible study, and he gave me the Bible. And I was reading the Bible in Matthew, saying, love your enemy. And that shocked me, because during that time, practically, I was in a relationship with my enemies who I wanted to kill, and we became friends. So it made perfect sense to me. Love your enemy. Unconditional love. Don't hate anybody. Your problem is not with man. Your problem is with the bad spirits. And I was fascinated about Jesus Christ's teachings. Now when I start to adopt Jesus Christ's standards, not Christianity as a religion, Jesus Christ's message of love, which is equal to God in the Bible, I adopted those standards in my life, and I had a new motivation. Now my motivation wasn't the new motivation in Jesus Christ, in the Christian faith, didn't have political agendas, didn't have agendas to support Israel or even support Palestine. It was the agendas of saving a human life, because I was in a position where I could give information about a suicide bomber who was going ahead to kill and blow himself up in civilians, innocent people, children, women, and old people. And that was my final motivation, to serve the cause of love through my working with the Shin Bet and Hamas at the same time.
After working for Israel for 10 years, you decided to stop and come to the U.S. Why did you do that?
First of all, I was living a very difficult life. And nobody knew about me. I was Christian undercover. I was spy undercover. It's a very risky job. Nobody understood how difficult the situation that I was in. And I had to make a big decision every day, on a daily basis, about life and death, every day. And at the end of the day, I'm not God. And I was doing His will, but I don't have His almighty strength to keep going. And I needed a break. I figured out, after 10 years of fighting terrorism, that our problem is not with terrorists. Our problem simply is with their ideology. And I figured out that we were fighting a ghost. And I needed to find a different way to fight terrorism, of first of all being honest and revealing the secrets that I have known, the journey that I have done, and who really I am. Because everybody was simply deceived of who I was. And instead of just playing the game of being a terrorist in order to get information from terrorist groups, no, I want to tell terrorists today that I wasn't one of you, and you need to learn from this experience. What you're doing is wrong. And other message to my people. If you're ashamed to shake the hand of Israeli, if you're ashamed to make peace, to have peace with Israelis, I tell you, learn from my example. Israelis were my biggest enemies, and today they are my best friends. And I love Israelis. I love Israel. And I will protect Israel, not by carrying a gun, by saying the truth. And also I will protect Palestinians, because I love my family, I love my father. My mother is still there, my father is there. My friends, my people who suffered for many years, I love every one of them. And I will protect their rights also for self-destiny. And now the thing is, they need to understand that their biggest enemy is not the occupation. Occupation is a problem. In my opinion, and I said this several times, that the biggest loser of this occupation is Israel itself. And the occupation is a big problem for Palestinians because they hang all their problems on the hanger of occupation. And when there is a society that they have a reason to hang all their problems, they never get the chance to see themselves in the mirror. So their leaders would make deadly mistakes that risks all the future of Palestinians while they're blaming everything on Israel, while this is not honest. And this is unhealthy for any society. So today my message to them that I tell Israel that your problem is not Palestinians. And I'm telling Palestinians, your problem is not Israel. You are the problem of yourselves. And you are the enemies of yourselves. You need to solve the problem, first of all, in your hearts, in every individual heart. If you can establish peace and forgiveness based on the great teachings of Jesus Christ in your hearts, first of all, unconditional love, that you love everybody unconditionally. If they can do that, this is a way of getting out of this endless circle of violence. And I am not sure that a Palestinian state will bring peace to my people. I am not sure about that. I think the state of peace, it's a state of mind before it's a state on paper or a state of borders. They need to have this. If my people are fighting for freedom and liberty, first of all, they need to understand the basics about freedom and liberty to be able to achieve it. How can they fight for something that they don't understand how it looks like, how it feels like? They need to have this among themselves. And the main reason that I wrote Son of Hamas, that I believe that the biggest enemies of that society, why they cannot love each other, because of the enemies of shame, guilt, and fear. Those are the biggest enemies of any society, not only Palestinians and Israelis. And this is why the leaderships cannot make progress toward peace. They're ashamed. They're not strong enough. They pretend that they are strong by rejecting the negotiation, for example. But the reality of this, that they are weak and they're not strong enough. They're afraid to get killed like Ishaq Rabin. Or maybe they are afraid of being judged by their people and losing their positions. Or maybe they are guilty to make a progress about this. In my book, Son of Hamas, what I simply did, I crossed all the red lines. The red line of shame. To work for the Israelis is very shameful. And I said I carry that. Nobody wants to bring this type of shame for himself, for money, or for any other reason. The second thing, it was guilt, feeling about my family. I love my family, and I didn't want them to suffer and be embarrassed for what I did. But also this is another lesson for everybody to learn from this, that even if we bring guilt and shame for ourselves, to stand for the truth, we have to do it. And the last thing is fear. I was threatened to get killed. And I'm still alive. And fear shouldn't stop us of saying the truth. Those main reasons why people are moving very slowly toward peace in the Middle East. And today I defeat them. I defeated them, in fact, not with my strength. I defeated them with the grace and liberty that I learned in Jesus Christ. Those are the standards that I learned in this wonderful faith of Christianity, of liberty and freedom. Grace, that no religion is going to take you to heaven. No government will bring you ultimate justice and happiness. It's very important. Religion is important. Government, constitution, all those are important. You have to respect them. It's a requirement of Jesus Christ. But what fulfills all this is his message of grace, liberty, and unconditional love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
VNV TV, o canal é você.